It's YouTube Wednesday! Making a Krampus belt. Big piece of leather. I'm going to go ahead and cut all my belts. I'm going to just cut everything and talk about it when I'm done. Okay, so right now, actually, all I'm doing is I'm using that little stylus, which is actually a ball stylus. It's got a little ball on each end. And I'm just marking the leather against a ruler. I'm going to make a 6-inch wide belt. And I'm going to cut a couple extra pieces because I'm going to make a couple other belts because it is Krampus season. But, you know, right now, I've got a Persona razor blade, and that is what I am using to cut the leather right now. And I'll actually go to a couple different things of what I cut leather with because cutting leather seems like a chore. The Persona blades make pretty short work of it, and they're good stuff. What I've got there is I have a double shoulder of leather. Double shoulder is it's the top two shoulders of the cow. So that's what that is. And I paid $100 for that piece of leather, and I will get 6-7 belts out of it. That's a roller cutter. You can use it on fabric. A good sharp wheel work fine on leather. It's not quite as sharp as I want, so I'm going to have to... you'll see that I cut it once, and then I have to go over it again. And I know that you guys can't see the line I'm cutting on, but it's just a very simple line that I scribed in with the stylus. The leather's not even wet at this point in time. The leather is dry, and you don't need it to mark it. And I'm using that stylus to do it. So... I cut off one strip that was as long as I could get it. That's about a 60-inch piece. That's what I'm going to make my main belt with. In full Krampus costume, I have about a 44 to 46-inch waist. And I'm going to make it where it fits me on the maximum, and it'll fit all the way down to like a 38 or so. Maybe even more. It just depends. So now I'm marking up 6 inches, and I've cut that piece right there in front of me at 45 inches long. That's what I'm making my other belts at, because I'm actually going to have them laced together in the back. It'll look like a great Krampus belt from the front, but I'm gonna put laces in it like a shoelace, so it'll lace together behind people, and I'll be able to make it, you know, work for them. And that way it'll fit multiple sizes of people, and you don't have to worry too much about it. It'll still look like a good belt from the front. And I'm just cutting leather at this point. So I don't mind. Most of this video is sped up 8 times. If I want to show you guys something for detail, what I'll do is I'll speed it down to 4. I'll speed it down to 4 times because you guys can, you know, the brain can capture that pretty easy. What I have here in my hand there, that little wooden tool, that is a strip and strap cutter. It's got a razor blade in it, and the handle acts as a gauge. I'm cutting off some 1.5-inch wide strips. That is one of my favorite tools in my arsenal for leather work. You'll see me pull it out again to get a little tiny piece. You just watch me, you know, wrap that around my waist. And I just marked it and I cut it so it's got a nice end of a belt shape. And you kind of get an idea of how that belt's going to fit on there a little bit. I wrapped it around myself and I just marked where the end went on that piece of leather. You won't be able to see the marking. I barely can. But I took one of those straps that 1.5-inch straps, and I'm going to double buckle this belt. So I'm actually going to use these 2 little ones. It would be really hard to find a 6-inch buckle, and it wouldn't be very comfortable to wear. So if I want a big belt like that, what I will do is I will end up doing 1.5-inch buckles. What I'm using now are Chicago screws, or screw posts, they're often called. And what it is, it's a bolt that has a threaded hole on one end and a screw goes in the other end. So basically you have a head on each side. And now there's a smooth side and one side has a screw on it. And I use the flat side out just for decor and the screw sides on the inside. And what you've seen me do right now is just put it together loosely. What I'm poking holes in now are the actual straps of the belt that the buckle will go through. And when I said I put those screw posts together lightly, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up taking it all apart. I'll put a dot of super glue in each one. Those are the buckles that I chose. I like them because they looked kind of Nordic, kind of Christmassy, kind of Celtic, and I just think they're going to look a little fancier on the belt. Um, I was using screw posts that I had, so the screw posts I'm using are silver. This piece right here is, that's the belt. You guys can see how I did 2 holes. I cut them to be a groove. I folded it over once I fit the buckle in. And that's a little bit tricky to get right, just the folding over and how you have to put the buckle on the belt in order to do it. And I put 2 holes, and I'm screw posting it together. If all I wanted was a regular belt for my pants, you know, that right there, that setup, that's it. I'm going to take these 2 buckled straps and attach it in the right spot on the big belt in order to make a big belt with 2 buckles, one right on top of the other. And when I hammered through first time, it marked those for me, so now I know where to put them. And there's the holes. I'm not hammering right on wood. I'm hammering on a little piece of EVA foam, so that way I'm not messing it up. I'm not messing up either the leather punch, nor am I messing up the table, because it'll take chunks right out of your table. Alright, and what's important now is that I'm using what I lined up earlier on me. I made a little mark, and that's how I know where to put this. See how I've got that on the very last hold of the buckle? It's on the last hole, so this is the biggest that belt's ever going to get to be. I now know that if anyone else puts it on, they can tighten it down. So I'm about the biggest Krampus, just about, over here at Dark Hour. I'm sure there are bigger Krampuses out there, but with the costume on and everything, I'm pretty big around. I'm pretty big around without the costume on, let's be honest. I like me some pie. Alright, so now I'm just screw posting on. You know, you hammer the holes in each side. Often you can go through both with the punch. It's pretty simple. Get a good mallet. You don't want a steel hammer can mar up your punch, so be careful about that. And here I am just putting the belt on. And it takes a little bit, you know, to get used to. This is very new, very stiff leather. And I'm a big boy, and I made it to fit me exactly. But that is the gist of it. Now, it's nowhere near as fancy as it's going to be. That's coming up. All right, so that leather there, I have actually, that's the belt. I have wet it. I wet the leather with just a spray bottle with water. Very light misting. And I'm using this simple trenching tool that I showed you up close to the camera. And I'll put a link to that in the video description. So I'm using that trenching tool just in order to line the edges of the belt. I went all the way around the big belt, and I went all the way around both of the little belt pieces. And that's just going to give a much more professional finish. See those edges in there? Each belt has a little line on it now, and that's just, it makes it a little more fancy. So let's stain this puppy. What I have here is my favorite Gel Antique Saddle Tan, and that's Waterstain Red. For my blood mix now, I always use that Waterstain Red, and the Saddle Tan I use on almost everything. I'm going to mix these two because I don't want like a fire engine red, but I want a nice red. You know, maybe Krampus dyes his belt with the blood of children. You know, who knows? But it's certainly an option if you if I make it the right color. It also feels kind of holiday. It's a little bit cranberry looking. I just really like it. I think this mix came out great. And this antique stain is one that you, and the water stain can be as well. It's one you apply, and then once you apply it, you let it sit as long as you like. The longer you let it sit, the darker it's going to get. You know, the more it's going to leave on there. And you want to make sure that you get the top and the edges. So normally a belt this big, I'm going to do maybe a third of it at a time. Maybe a half of it. This is a pretty big piece of leather. I don't normally stain the insides of my belts. What I'll do is if I do stain the inside, I go back and I spray on a clear coat to make sure I just hold it in. This I'm going to make into a big jingle bell strip. And just to give it some variety, remember I said the more I let it sit, the darker it'll get. Well, I used my fingers and I just wiped some stripes into it. So I let that sit for about 5 or 6 minutes. Here's the big bells that I got. You can see the container says $6.99 on it, and I got that from Hobby Lobby, which is a craft store near me. But I got it when Christmas stuff was half off. So I paid $3.50 for those big bells. And it is so hard to find a big Jingle Bell leather strip for less than, see that, how that stripe just came out? It just gives the piece of leather some interest. There's nothing fancy. But it's so hard to find those big Jingle Bell strips for a decent price. So finding those big bells for even $7, that's a bargain. When you have a big strip of Jingle Bells, it's a lot. See, that belt's looking sharp now. You know, expect to pay $40 for a finished Jingle Bell strip. But this one, we're just going to make. And you can do the same. You don't have to make your own strip for it. Buy a belt from the thrift store. Okay, there's my strap cutter I mentioned before. It's called a strip and strap cutter from Tandy Leather. I just cut off a little piece. I got it wet, and I'm going to drop it in my dye mix for later. Now I'm going to open up those bells. And of course, all Jingle Bells are kind of built the same. And I am marking where whenever you have something you want to kind of evenly space, do the first one on each end, do the ends, and then line up the middles. If you just start going down a line, it'll be real easy to get off course. And I took those bells and I pushed them in to make sure they made a little mark on the leather, and that is why I knew where to punch those holes. So now I'm just taking some floral wire, I'm putting it through the back, coming out the front, through the bell, going back in. I'm giving that a twist. So I twist that up really good. I don't want to poke the performer, so now I put both of those wires together. I poke it back out through the front, and I'm going to wrap that around the Jingle Bell base. That way any pokey wire bit is both under the bell and nowhere near the performer, who's going to wear that strip of bells. And I'm going to knock out the other 5 here. Again, these bell strips, they really sell it as a Krampus to me. I think the noise is a big part of not just the holiday tradition, but Krampuses. You know, they want to come in with a bunch of noise, and these bells are a great way to do that. Obviously, I'm excited. So all I'm doing now is I'm pulling that string out. Remember the little pieces of leather that I put in there? I'm wiping it off. I'm wiping it down. And this technique that I'm about to show you, I could have done the whole belt this way and never used screw post. I'm just going to feed it through, and I'm putting it in. I'm lining up the holes that I punched in the end of that bell strip in order to hold it on, and I'm feeding this wet leather lace. It's important to note the leather is wet. I'm feeding it through the holes, so it'll come out the front, and I'm going to tie it off. If you want really rustic looking leather, do your attaching this way. It's a really nice look. It adds a lot of interest. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to tie it in a simple bow or a double overhand. I'm going to whack the heck out of it. What that does is that flattens it down. And now that that is flat, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to dry. It's all going to lock together really nice. It's just going to be, you know, pretty awesome. Look at that belt. Finished belt. I am happy. I think it looks like a good Krampus belt. Thank you guys all for watching. I'm going to go put this on a monster.
Get out of there!
Go make stuff!